Diva, thanks so much. I remember talking to you just about 2 or 3 weeks ago about a report that came out about how girls in particular and children are suffering in Afghanistan. But because you're talking to us from London, I wanted to ask you what you think of the British attitude towards the situation in Afghanistan in terms of refugees and people seeking asylum and coming to the UK to resettle there. Has it been a success in terms of the British government's attitude towards Afghans leaving the country?
Thank you so much for having me. In Britain, there's many Afghans still in the hotels. They're still waiting to be resettled to a place of housing. The situation is not great when we hear it from the Afghans who are here still waiting to be housed. As it has been promised by the government, is not as great as they actually picture it.
Do you believe it's time for the international community, the Americans, for example, to be releasing the funds that actually belong to Afghanistan, the country, but not to the Taliban, its rulers?
Definitely. Look, who is actually right now suffering are the Afghans. I think it will be very ideal or best to work with the Afghans or with the government, with the Taliban to help the Afghans. As you said earlier, the winter is approaching. The Afghans are suffering. We consider the disaster that has been happening in the country is not good. Many people have lost their houses. A lot of people, they lost their families. And there are a lot of people, because of the sanction that is actually imposed in the country, there's a lot of unemployment. So people are suffering a lot. And I think that the international community has a duty to help those Afghans. And they need to work with the Taliban to help those Afghans who are suffering nowadays.
And do you think that need is even more acute because the Taliban possibly don't have the resources, the experience, the money, just the logistical ability to be able to help the people of Afghanistan?
It's not just that. I think the international community needs to understand that the situation which is the Afghans are in right now is because of them. They were the ones who were talking to the Taliban. They were the ones who were behind the Taliban, who are now in the government. The Afghan people did not elect their current regime. So what has happened is happened because of the West. So the West has an obligation now to help the Afghan people. And also what is very important is for the UN also to understand that in the past, a lot of those aid that was given to Afghanistan was not really going to Afghan people. A lot of that money was going for the administration. And I think that needs to be controlled more, and so that the Afghans can benefit from that aid, and they will be able to see a change because in the past about 80% of the money which was given to Afghanistan was 80% of that money was going for administration, and I think UN needs to tackle this situation.
Diva, countries usually work best when there is a contract between those who govern and those who are governed, when there's trust between those who govern and those who are governed. Is Afghanistan at that stage, or are there still many, many people, because as you said, the Taliban came to power through the gun and not through the ballot box, so there's still many people in Afghanistan who don't want to enter into that contract with the Taliban and therefore are not necessarily, through their inaction, they're not necessarily helping the country to move forward?
We need to understand that right now the reality is that the Taliban are governing. We need to be able to work with them. If we don't recognize them, but at least we need to work with them so that we can help the Afghan people. Of course, they came with the power of the gun. They came not just with the power of the gun, they came with the power of the West, with Americans' help. They came and the regime which was there for 20 years, it has been collapsed because they were in talks with the Taliban. The Afghan government was not aware of it. A lot of Afghans are not happy with the situation that that is in the country. But right now, what is very important is the human rights, the human lives, that we need to take care of them. And a lot of those lives are very important. I think what is needs to be done by the West is to understand that the situation that the Afghans are in, they need to be helped. The aid needs to reach them, and the money which they have taken, especially the Americans, they need to give it back to the Afghans, so that at least the Afghans who are suffering nowadays, they would be able to use that money to look after their own citizens. What is very unfortunate, that there is a lot of disaster is happening in the country, which is not in the hands of the government or the people, but I think it's the obligation of the world now that they need to give more attention to Afghanistan. I feel that Afghanistan has been forgotten. Nobody really cares, and I think they're not going to care until there is a threat, a security threat from the country. And we can see that day by day that the security of the country is also not in a stable situation. I think the Afghans need to be heard, they need to be listened to, and they need to be helped.
Diva Patang, thank you so much, as always. Diva Patang speaking from London.
Thank you so much for having me.